All right, women's basketball fans, the WNBA preseason is about to commence. We are already in training camp, and yours truly, Brian Florentin, was boots on the ground covering the New York Liberty. We've got some returning faces, we've got some new faces, and definitely a new head coach that has a completely different, I believe the actual quote from Sabrina Ionescu, totally different system. We're going to get into that and so much more on today's episode of Gotta Get Up, a podcast for New York Liberty fans. Gotta get up, gotta get up, gotta get up. Hey, women's basketball fans, welcome to Gotta Get Up, a podcast for New York Liberty fans, brought to you by Black Rosie Media and hosted by Erica L. Ayala. Hey y'all, welcome to Gotta Get Up, a podcast for New York Liberty fans, brought to you by Black Rosie Media. My name is Erica L. Ayala. I am here with Brian Florentin and Amir. Hey, get here on time. We were making sure we had all the technology good to go, but we are glad you are here. Alexis is in the house. Daniel is always here on time. Daniel is always one of the first responders, not in like the medical COVID way, but definitely for the podcast. We appreciate all of y'all. And it's not a show until Damien pulls up. Damien, hola, ¿qué tal? What's going on? Oh, okay, Tammy's here too. Come on. Where y'all at? Let us know in the chat. But Brian, before we get started, I don't usually do this, but I had a lot of packages come to the office today, to Black Rosie Media headquarters, if you will. And some of it is gear. So I got my mics back. All of it is good. But this right here, the Michael Jackson Estate Actively Black collaboration, y'all, I don't think y'all know how excited I am. The lining, can we talk about it? Like, I am ready to go.
Oh, that's a nice jacket.
I am ready. It's got I just found the pocket.
I just
found the inner pocket. It's got the inner pocket. It's got, come on, man. Like, I love me some Michael. Let's go. I'm ready for the movie. Let's do it. But we're going to talk New York Liberty for real. But Brian, what's good in your hood before you give a report?
New York, the same as it always was. It was hot last week. I had to put up my winter coat today, so I'm a little bit bummed. But May is around the corner, so
that's it. Tourist season.
I'm all right.
Let's go. Tourist season. For those who don't know, I know that y'all know that the season starts on May 8th. What y'all may not know is that there are a few media members, including yours truly, whose birthday is on May 8th. I have the honor of sharing a birthday with a lot of people, including like Katniss Everdeen. But anyway, that's a whole other thing. But Doug Feinberg and Megan Hall. We all have the same birthday. So we're going to be likely, I think all of us are national writers. So I'm assuming all of us will be either at a WNBA game or covering the WNBA on our birthday. Hey, gang, tourists, let's go tourist season. Let's go. Ronnie's in the house. I love it. But Brian, before I will be joining you shortly in New York City for all of the festivities, including we're getting our the second annual Media Appreciation Day. We get our Appreciation Day in the beginning of the season, so they love up on us before we write anything trash about them. But you were able to take in the first few days of training camp, and we've seen some of those clips. If you're not already following Black Rosie Media, make sure you check that out on social media, because some of Brian's clips have already been posted on our social channels. But Brian, let's just first talk about an overview. What were you seeing? What were the vibes like catching up with everyone at training camp?
Yeah, so it's a little bit different. So for people on social media, if you're wondering why all of us are just like looking through like a glass window for everything,
I know I was like, y'all got demoted? What's going on?
Yeah, nobody's doing renovations for I don't know how long, so it's gonna be a little bit weird. And like the first day was very sort of cramped and tight. Erica, you've been in scrum settings where it's just like all of us like on top of each other in that way. Mm-hmm. Imagine that, but also like a really tinier space for the first day. So that made it a little bit difficult Today was a lot smoother. We had a larger room. Everyone sort of like had more room to like operate and move freely. So it's a work in progress on that front. But for the thing that the people really want to hear about the players, not my day to day, it's been going well. Everyone seems to be in good spirits. Like the energy's high. Everyone's feeling good. There's like an excitement in the air. I think what's helped is that we've seen some returners coming back to the team. Najee Hamilton, Anju, Rebecca Allen. So it's a lot of like familiar faces for a lot of the players and some new energy as well too. Satu Sabali, Anel Maley. It's been Aneli Maley. It's been really fun. So far it's been really good. DeMARCO's been he's been engaging. Like he's active in the drills. Like we see him like running the drills with the players. Like the new coach staff is getting familiar with everybody. It's been a nice little flow so far, I'd say.
Yeah, I think so as well. It was interesting to hear. We're not going to hear from Chris DeMarco in the comments on today's episode, but we will continue to put out content that Brian has been collecting. But one of the things he said is that, he wants him and his staff to really be active when it comes to participating. And that is something that, he was able to do when he was on staffs and wants to continue to do now that he is kind of running the show. So I thought that's really cool. And it sounds like the drills may alternate that the coaching staff participates in, but either way, it's pretty cool. We do know there are some players, as you've been reporting again in some of the talking head hits after training camp, that some players have not yet arrived. So, and one of those, of course, is Breanna Stewart. We know that Leonie Fiebig has also not arrived. So, we're still getting a feel. Now, I know if you're an OG, there's definitely, and you spoke to Hanju, or the media got to hear from Han yesterday, or Marine Johannes is also, Marine Johannes, also not yet at camp. But Hanju is someone who's returning, Brian. And again, you talked about this in one of your videos that we've posted on social media. But, what are you seeing from Han? I think there's a lot more comfort since the last time she was with the New York Liberty. She did get to be a part of a Commissioner's Cup championship, but not quite the WNBA title. But back with the team, what are you seeing there?
Yeah, with Han, great vibes. That's been the theme of everyone I've talked to so far. Aneli Maley played with Han in the WNBL, and she loves Han. She's like, Han is her energy is so infectious. She's so positive. She has such a great feel for what she's doing. She's so energetic and welcoming. And the stuff I've seen of her during the drills so far, she's very engaged with the players. She's very talkative, like she's very communicative. The energy is really positive. And in the interviews that we had with her yesterday, Monday, she's doing this without a translator because she's been working on her English as far as like being a better English communicator, and she's working really hard on that, and she definitely deserves to be commended because it's really difficult having to learn another language while coming back to the United States and sort of getting adjusted to a new system from when you were here last. So it's a big challenge, but she's meeting it head on and with a lot of good energy, and I feel like that's rubbing off on her teammates, and everyone's really sort of excited and happy to participate, and it feels like everyone's sort of like moving in that same direction, I'd say.
Okay, yeah, I love it. Yeah, I know a lot of y'all are, Damien's like, I knew Hanju would come back. Again, I never really saw the complete vision here. I think we're in a camp now where, of course, Breanna Stewart, one of your bigs, is not back yet. Leonie Fiebig is not back. Long, but maybe not considered a proper big here. I think it's going to be interesting, though, to see with Han here if she's able to, and I don't foresee a situation if she's in camp that she won't make the roster, but how is the usage going to be there when you have Jonquel Jones, Stewie, and of course Satu Sabali now as the starting bigs, I would imagine. And so where is Han's game? How is it going to fit there? We know obviously she's been continuing to play for Team China. And, I think it's going to be interesting to see Al saying, your girl is back, Erica. Han looks good. I will say, like, just from the drills that I've seen, and has always looked pretty solid with her national team. Most players that, come into the WNBA do. I think there's definitely been growth. You talked about the growth even just socially and being able to interact. I think she's always been like this bubble of energy since her rookie year when, they were out it was the first year, right, that we were under, I believe, the Josiah administration, but playing in Westchester County. So it's a throwback. Definitely a lot of growth here. We'll see what it looks like on the court. We know Han is a fan favorite. So yeah, there we go. Ronnie saying this past season in Aussie land with Perth got me looking at Hani. Look, hey, listen, let's see what happens. I've been wrong before. I was wrong about Emma Messiman. I didn't think it was time for Sandy to go, but that's why I'm not Jonathan Kolb. So, here we go. I think it's going to be interesting to see. But Laney Hamilton did speak to media yesterday, I believe it was. What are you seeing from Queen Bee?
Yeah, she's another person that's super excited to be back. She mentioned that this is the best she sort of felt in a while, like not having to experience any pain as she plays. She looks good. The drives look really solid. The post defense looks really good. I would say that she definitely is off to a good start. And now for DeMarco and the staff, with the preseason game coming up this weekend, we'll sort of see how he manages her minutes. I imagine she'll probably start the first preseason game because the full roster isn't here yet. So we're not going to
in particular.
Yeah, so like just having a familiar face starting the preseason off is something I would expect. But so far she looks solid. Like, she looks good, no rust, looks like she's moving comfortably and confidently. So I think that she's going to be off to a good start coming up.
So we talked a little bit about a mosh podge, but definitely names that we've known throughout the Liberty. You talked about some newer names and faces, but in addition to just kind of listing them off, is there someone that has stood out to you so far that is newer to the Liberty fan base?
As far as standing out, it's hard to honestly get a full feel on it because the way that practice is currently, it's not the usual layout where, Erica, we come in, we're at the stools, we're just like locking in, particularly to like watching sets and things like that. So It's a little bit more sort of segmented, so we can't get a full feel for it. So I would say circle back to me next week. And then after the preseason game and after seeing how everything looks in the first sort of like run of it, I feel like that'll give me a more natural feel as to who's the early standout.
Yeah, that's fair. I think another player I'm interested to see is where does Raquel fit into this very long, tall lineup? Knowing that Hanju is also here. I mean, can she play a true center in the WNBA? I mean, that's a question. And I think it's really interesting because you do see players at like 6'3" that are listed at center, but then like Lauren Betts, for example, just one example is a rookie coming in and is 6'7". Yeah. So, probably more of a forward than a center, I would argue, but maybe that allows for that big, small lineup. And we've seen under Sandy Brondello that the New York Liberty have experimented at times with smaller lineups versus a bigger lineup. Other teams have done that as well. But that kind of leads to our second segment here. We're busting through. But we are going to hear from Sabrina Ionescu and Rebecca Allen, aka Beck Allen, aka one of the two Becks, which I thought was really funny. We've got BEC Beck, which is Beck Allen, and we've got BEK Beck, which is Beck Gardner. But we'll talk about them in a little bit, but this is also a transition into, are you getting a sense, and again, we're going to hear from Sabrina in particular about the DeMarco system, but just from the organization of the practice. We've already talked about the coaches getting involved in, one of the kind of fitness drills towards the end of practice. What are some other observations that you have noticed under Chris DeMarco that are different, not just from Brondello, but are different from anything that you've seen from the New York Liberty?
I would say for DeMarco, the difference from what I've been seeing is that he seems very engaged as far as with the players, directly doing the drills, him and the coaching staff. Sandy's people were there'd be practices where Olaf was sort of dictate a section. Sometimes last year Sonia would dictate a section. It seems like from our vantage point up top, it feels like they're all sort of doing it simultaneously together. is something that I'm noticing if you had to make a comparison to last season in the previous administration. So that part's interesting. When it comes to the philosophy piece, in talking with, because I asked him yesterday how he sees, just to sort of like segment to Sabrina specifically, I was asking him, you know, Sabrina's percentages at the rim have increased every season of her career. How does he sort of see Sab's driving ability as a way of sort of like creating and generating space on offense? And he was mentioning that those shots at the rim are the ones that he's really looking for the team to get, as far as like playing with a fast pace, getting downhill, cutting really well, making timely cuts, getting into the painted area. So I feel like that's a big emphasis. I'd say, because it was an emphasis last year, but between execution, personnel, and everything, we didn't really get to see it that way. I feel like this group this year, it sounds a little bit more determined to get into the paint, because Beck Allen was talking about our pal Owen Pence asked Beck about her cutting ability and finishing at the rim, and she made a specific mention of that when we spoke to her today too. So I feel like from the people we've talked to so far, just getting downhill, getting into the paint, it feels like that's going to be a huge emphasis for them, and I think a welcome development.
Yeah, I love it. You know, there's two things here. This is funny. First, I do want to read this comment and then go back to Amir's comment. But Damien saying Raquel Carrera is a power forward, not a center, folks. I mean, Damien, I don't disagree with you, except that's not what the Liberty are saying because she's listed as a forward center. That's why I brought it up. That's exactly why I brought it up, because at 6'3", are you an actual center in the WNBA? Now we've seen this before. It's not unusual. It's not uncommon. And not everyone that's actually listed as a forward center is going to be playing center in the WNBA, which is exactly why I brought it up. And Amir is asking that same question. Does Han get stretch 4 minutes playing with JJ because she doesn't have enough body, yada, 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 to really defend the paint in an increasingly physical league? Now, there's a few things here that I find really interesting. One is, this is the exact premise why I've said for years that Han is great for the fans, and there's a particular subset, but at her height, compared to her size, her physicality and the ability to be physical, I definitely don't see her as a WNBA starter. And I'm curious, on a team that has a lot of bigs, a lot of physical bigs, is she a good fit? And what is the expectation? What are we getting with Han? That's always been the question. I just don't see it. That's always been, my thought here. I do think and it's super small sample size. I mean, Hanju playing with her national team and at the international stage, a little bit different when not playing the United States. But I think, I think her movement has gotten a lot more confident, maybe even a little sharper. I think the two are related. They're not exactly the same, but I think they are related. So her movement, her confidence, her decision-making is sharper, quicker. I think you're seeing that. And they're just certain things that, again, in the international game, I think it suits her. When you're playing what we usually see in the NCAA and especially the WNBA, or AKA what you see when you play USA, playing USA once in a cycle is one thing, but playing a USA's type, air quote, USA type caliber night in, night out, those are where I have questions. I'm not saying it can't happen, but I've just never seen it. So, Ronnie's saying that's right. We don't have both Marines yet, but that is, there's a lot going on. Didn't we have two Kias at one time and they spelled their names differently? Kia Vaughn and Kia Nurse.
It was Kia Vaughn.
Oh, right. Kia Nurse and Kia Stokes.
Yes.
Well, Kia Vaughn and Stokes definitely played together. I'm not sure. And maybe Kia. See now, okay, we gotta look in the archives, because now I'm very curious. So yeah, we'll see what happens there. But it's gonna be we're gonna use nicknames a lot. But to get more into the philosophy, DeMarco You mentioned this, and DeMarco said something today in the clips that you sent over, Brian. And also we're going to hear from Beck Allen and Sab in a minute, but there is a lot of intentionality, and the communication, as you said, is very direct. And that's actually a word that he used today, Brian.
Yeah.
When he was asked, how are you communicating with the team? What are the expectations? Things of that nature, specifically asked about accountability. And he's like, yeah, everyone's talking about accountability. So yeah, I think it's really interesting, that he doesn't think about accountability necessarily, or expectations, in a way other than communication and being direct. And I love that. I think that's really important.
Yeah, one of the things he mentioned, and Beck Allen mentioned it too, is that Chris is big on making eye contact and being sort of direct when talking to someone. I feel like, especially for someone who's new to the space, because today our pal Jackie Powell was asking a lot of people what Chris's teaching style is like, as far as like how he works to sort of like implement his vision and be communicative with the people he's charged with leading. And that directness is something that's very open, and that was sort of consistent across the people we've spoken to so far. So I feel like we're going to get a good feel for that. And talking with him a couple of times myself, I get that sense of directness as well too, like that willingness to talk, that willingness to sort of like engage on like deep questions and things like that. So I feel like as he gets more comfortable dealing with us, as far as being a head coach, as compared to being like a second chair assistant kind of thing, that comfort shines out a little bit more. But so far, it's been very engaging. Like he's open, like he's kind, polite, nice kind of thing, and he's with the players, very, very forthcoming. We'll go through things with them specifically, sort of like really give them the tools that they need to succeed and be in the best position possible. So I think he's off to a good start on that front.
Yeah, for sure. Everyone talking about the Kias. We've had lots of Kias, including, of course, Kia Nurse, who is headed back to the north. So that'll be good for Kia Nurse. What was it? Was it a 6th, 7th overall pick? Somewhere in there, I believe. I was at that draft. Oh, geez, how time flies. And Ronnie's saying, of course, we can't forget the OGs. This is the 30th season, not only of the WNBA, but also your New York Liberty. And that's right, the two spoons. I'm not going to say the names, though. I want to know if y'all know the names. Put it in the chat. You can use first names or last names. But that's your clue. Two spoons. And make sure you get the spelling right. That's the hint I'll give you. Make sure you get the spelling right. But as it says here in the second quarter, we're going to hear from Sab and Beck Allen. On the other side, Brian and I will break this down a little bit. And then I do want to let you know we're going back to a halftime segment because we have to talk about Tash Cloud. There's a lot of conversation about Tash Cloud, and we're not going to miss out on that conversation on this episode, or a podcast that is for New York Liberty fans. I've been seeing how fans have been reacting. I've been seeing how greater WNBA fans have been acting. And I think there is a critical piece of the conversation that we need to talk about, which is also a plug because I will be on We Need to Talk Now podcast later this week. Also,
where is We Need to Talk podcast?
That's right. On the world's, what is the phrase that you say?
America's leading network.
Not me pulling a Las Vegas Aces and just being like, clearly we're world champions. All right. I see some folks in the chat putting the names in there. We'll get to that. But first, let's hear from Sabrina Ionescu first, and then Beck Allen. This is from your co-host with the absolute most, Brian Florentin, from Training Camp Today.
Sure. So I just want to follow up on something that you said yesterday about not needing a traditional point guard, and then you gave context in terms of the players learning every position. How do you feel like your skill set can be maximized in a system like that?
Well, I think
kind of ran it last year.
Yeah, I think it's just understanding the game has evolved so much, and it's not as like our posts especially have guard-like skills. Like with Stewie, with JJ, they both shoot really well. They can handle the ball. We can stretch them, and guards can go inside. And I think kind of being untraditional in that sense of finding different ways to attack mismatches and giving teams a different kind of look offensively is something that we're going to continue to do, especially with just the versatility that we have on the offensive end. I mean, Satu coming in at 6'4", who can guard and post up, who has guard-like skills and can also post up. Like, there's just so much variation that we can have offensively, and I think that's the nice part about the team that we have. It's not just like one-dimensional. I think there's so many, skills that we all have, and we're all going to understand how to use each other offensively. And I think for me, it's understanding, obviously, I'm a great passer. I can initiate offense. I can get off ball and use the gravity to be able to create for my teammates. I can shoot the ball as well. So I think it's just understanding how we can all play off one another to create the best advantage for our offense. He's in film. He's really painting the picture of what we want to see, and there's not really any gray area. It's very like black and white. Like, you understand where you have to be on the offensive side of the ball at all times, and you know where your teammate's supposed to be, you know where the posts are supposed to be, even if it's not your position. And he's able to really like paint that picture very clear for us to just understand, like, this is what you need to be doing offensively, and this is where you need to be. And there's not really this like second guessing of like, I could do this, but I also could do that. And I think that part of his knowledge of the game has really just helped everyone understand exactly what their role is and how they could be useful in this offense and defense. Same on the defensive end as well.
So is it going to be like more scripted, do you think, than last year? Or is it still going to be like read react, or?
It's nothing like last year.
Okay.
Yeah, so it's going to be completely different. But I'd say like the sense of we're all going to be playing to our strengths is always going to be the same. Like, he came in understanding like what everyone does really well and how he can incorporate it. But I'd say like the spacing that we're playing with is going to be kind of different than what we've seen. And I think that's going to be really exciting for all of us, because we all play really well in space when there's not two people guarding me, two people guarding Stewie, two people guarding, JJ. I think when you're able to play somebody one-on-one, the floor just opens up, the rim opens up, like everything's a lot easier. So it's going to be exciting, and I think we're excited to just kind of get out there and start playing, see how it feels.
So we are going to hear from Beck Allen in just a little bit, but I'm going to take her off of the screen for a moment, because I think there was a lot telling in that clip. And I don't know, I want to think a little bit more on it. And I think the New York Liberty has been pretty clear, Jonathan Kolb, especially in trying not to pit whatever happened and what is known as the Sandy Brondello era against the Chris DeMarco era. And to hear Sabrina Ionescu talk about how this is completely different. We're going to hear from Beck Allen in a little bit. Now, she did not play. Brian, help me out here. Did she play under the Sandy era I think she did. Okay. I couldn't remember if she overlapped, because of course she predated Sandy Brondello in New York. But so she's had a few different coaches, including Bad Boy Bill, who she mentioned.
She mentioned Bad Boy Bill.
She had mentioned Bad Boy Bill. And I've been, anyway, we'll get to her in a minute. But the fact that there's such a departure in the system, and the 5-out system came under a lot of criticism. I think, though, it's interesting to hear that the laissez-faire, and we've talked so much about this, right, with Sandy Brondello. She's a player's coach. She trusts her players, and she trusts her players to make plays. That's what she does. This is a much more focused, it sounds like, a much more intentional and perhaps even disciplined system that DeMarco is trying to implement here. I mean, what were your reactions as you were hearing Sabrina and others talk a little bit about the difference from last season to this season? Yeah,
something to add to the being careful not to draw specific distinctions between the two administrations. Chris was kind of asked about that slightly, and he really made sure to be like, hey, he did it in the most polite way possible. And I was like, I got you. I see why you wouldn't want to like say, oh, they did it wrong this way. I'm going to do it right this way. I feel like he was smart not to sort of like lead into that. So I think that makes sense. And I think on the Sabrina front, it's so interesting because last year, since it's a lot of read and react, it's a lot of, hey, I trust, like you mentioned, I trust you to do the thing you need to do. So if you see a mismatch in a post where Bridget Carlson is guarding Jonquil Jones, hey, I trust you to get the ball there. And if you don't, it's
Why didn't you get the ball?
Yeah,
there?
why didn't get the ball there? So
Right.
I feel like it seems like with DeMarco is very much a, hey, I want you guys to do this thing that you do well and get to it right then and there. So it seems like he's more direct and sort of like calling out, getting the advantage that you create and getting to it quickly and not having room to just sort of, oh, maybe this other thing is there. If the opportunity is there and you have the advantage that the offense has successfully created, he wants you to get to it like right then and there. And I feel like that is a big difference, because last year this group, there'd be so many possessions where it just sort of like dies out, and it's like you generate the advantage, but then you're making an extra pass you don't need to. You're falling into a trap kind of thing. So this year, it seems like Chris is very distinct and specific in making sure that when you get the advantage, just get right to it and don't even think twice about it. And I think that goes into the idea of them playing faster, because I think sometimes, like with fast pace, I think it's just beyond just like how many possessions you get up, it's the quality of the possession you get. And I think a lot of it, and even last year, the group was at their best when they were out in transition. The problem was they didn't get out in transition enough, primarily because they couldn't rebound. You can't rebound, you can't get out and run, and you can't get those easy baskets that really allow you to create and push the advantage.
Rebounding we talked about today as well.
Yeah. So I think now that they, in theory, should have fixed their rebounding woes, and with a greater emphasis on pushing pace, getting out and running a little bit more, and really sort of like getting inside and getting into the paint to sort of like finish at the rim, which they do incredibly well as a team for the past couple of years, and getting to the free throw line most importantly. I feel like that's going to be a big emphasis for the group this year. So I really want to see what things look like when the season really gets started and the full band is here.
Yeah, I'm very intrigued by what we're hearing are the differences. And I think both approaches hold water. That's like one of my favorite movie quotes ever. I try to make it work whenever, because Marissa Tomei, she is a queen, and you could never make me hate her, probably. I might need to just brush up on where she stands on a few things that are going on in the world.
We're 95% sure.
Right, exactly. I feel like the percentage is high. With a caveat, I will absolutely check that and get back at y'all. So hold that thought. As of now, Marissa is my person. Anyway, I think that both systems, both philosophies, if you will, make a lot of sense. And again, Sandy, perhaps to a flaw for some people, trusts players. And we've talked about it on the podcast. I was like, Sandy can only do so much, or any coach can only do so much, right? And I think Sandy, and definitely Bad Boy Bill, operated on an assumption that you're a pro. I'm gonna need you to do pro type things. You know what I mean? It doesn't seem like Chris is doing that, which I find very interesting. It's giving like a John Wooden, right? I'm going to teach you how to put your socks on.
Yeah.
And I'm not mad. I'm not mad either way. But I do remember saying at some point when we were seeing some of the difficulties under the Brondello era, even before the championship, you got to at some point also look at the player personnel and where are they not maybe hitting the mark or meeting the brief. And it was interesting to hear Sabrina, I wouldn't say directly, Brian, it wasn't completely indirect, but she alluded to that some of that was because with perhaps a more laissez-faire, flowy offense, there was overthinking. And overthinking can sometimes lead to a lack of execution, a lack of confidence, a lack of assertiveness at times, which I find so interesting. Because for me, if someone gives me a lane, I'm taking it. I'm not thinking too much about it. Maybe, okay, once, twice, 3 times. But once I know someone's going to let me cook, I'm a feast.
Yeah,
I'm a feast because I don't like going hungry. Now I'm literally talking about food and not basketball, but that's, you know what I'm saying? Yeah. Everybody's got their thing. So I think it's going to be really interesting to see how things play out. But I thought that was a really interesting thing. Before we hear from Beck Allen, y'all came through. Okay, that's right. Weatherspoon and Witherspoon, Teresa and Sophia. Y'all got it. Y'all got it. I love this. And we're going to keep doing this because, again, it's 30 seasons, not just of the WNBA, but of your New York Liberty. And for those who don't know, I'm a huge history buff. I love talking about, I think you always, need to know about your history and respect your roots, as some of us in, Greek life say. And by Greek life, I mean Black fraternities and sororities, not like the Greek people in Greece. But anyway, I love this. I love this. So we'll do a little bit of that. Speaking of the past, but also the present, let's hear from Beck Allen, including what her conversations with Chris DeMarco were before coming over, as well as what her free agency kind of vibe was. What was she looking for? And how did that get her back to New York and our crazy housing market? I say our like I didn't move to Tulsa to try and avoid it. But anyway. Here goes Beck Allen.
I just think we heard what Sab was saying. It's a family offense. I think that's a really fun style of playing, because it means everyone's moving, the ball's moving, and you're part of it. I think everyone thrives in a situation like that and makes it way less stagnant. I'm someone that likes to move off the ball and cut, and that this offense really serves to that. I'm also, I would say, a selfless player. So there's moments where, hey, it's not about me, and you need someone like that on the court too. You got to get the ball to the right person at the right time, and sometimes it's going to be me, sometimes it's going to be someone else. Look at the roster. So yeah, I really see myself fitting in well offensively, but defensively in particular, you can tell that we're already developing that trust defensively, and that's pretty cool after 3 days.
Beck, great to see you.
Yeah, good to see you.
You talked about how fast everything was after the CBA was signed. What was your free agent journey like, and can you take us through just kind of getting back to New York?
Yeah, I mean, this was a different free agency for me than the one that I had 2 years ago. It was one where I only wanted to come to New York. That was a big thing for me, especially with where I'm at in my career. I wanted to go back to a place that means something to me. I want to be in a winning culture. I also really loved my chat with the coach, and I felt like, hey, this really resonates with me. His approach is different, and that's why I like it. You can tell he's very clear in what he wants, but the way it's said, it's just different than what I've experienced before. I really like it, because he's making sure that he's speaking to everyone and you feel that you're seen. So yeah, my free agency was very different. I was very clear. I had a narrow sort of, hey, this is what I want. If I don't get it, I don't get it. But it's so wonderful when things fall in place.
There you go, Beck Allen. I mean, really wanted specific things, but one of those things was to come back to New York. She also did talk about the podcast that went a lot more viral than she expected, including that some of what she said was tongue in cheek, and of course, like most jokes or things on the internet, it was rooted in truth. And I think Beck felt maybe that she got a little bit of heat from that. I honestly thought she was kinder than she perhaps needed to be about a certain organization in the Windy City. But I mean, she called New York home, and she's here in New York again. Well, she's in New York. I'm still in Tulsa for now. But anyway, she returns to this organization, an organization where she talked earlier in the entire clip, and we'll have that up and make it available for those who are in our Slack community. But she talked about Bill Laimbeer, that she needed to learn how to play defense to get minutes under the Laimbeer system. And what did I talk about? I tell you this, Brian, all the time, and I'm pretty sure I've said it live on the show before. When we had locker room access, I would go to MSG and everyone was swarming around Tina Charles. And as a, rookie reporter cutting my teeth, I was like, listen, I got the subway for that. I don't need to be all up on everybody.
And trying to talk to us.
Listen. And so Amanda Zawi B, Rebecca Allen, speaking to players like that who were very specific, that had a specific use case, it helped me learn a little bit about the team I was covering at the time. And Beck and I talked a lot about defense. And so we talked a lot about defense through her tenure in New York and when she went to other teams, because she became less of a defensive liability and learned how to work that into her game because of what she needed to do to get minutes in New York. So it was a real full circle moment. You hearing that she feels that the defensive identity of this specific New York Liberty roster is already taking form, and that she's excited to be able to contribute. Because Brian, you were in the scrum, so you know the prompt for her talking about her defense is that she is the, you know, one of the OG prototypes of what we now know as long basketball for the Liberty. And so she actually is climbing the record books when it comes to blocks, Brian.
Yeah. I didn't know this until Kenny St. Ville of New York Liberty Fan TV pointed out she's top 10 in the franchise in steals and blocks. I'm like, she didn't know that. I didn't know that. The only person who might have known was Flannery, and I'm like, he knows everything. But me, I'm like, oh wow, and she's been gone for 4 years. So I was like, that's amazing. And to the point about Beck being home, one of my favorite moments being on the beat, I think it was 2023. I was finishing up at Barclays and I was walking to the train, and then I saw Beck Allen, no security. It's like Beck standing outside, and like a Liberty fan came up to her and was having like a really nice conversation, saying that they really missed her here in New York. And you really get the sense that like Beck has such a connection with the fan base, and it really sort of like shines through, because even when she was gone, when she went to Connecticut, Phoenix, and Chicago, every time she pulls up, it's always a good time, and people are always happy to see her and engage with her. So I think that's one of the great parts about fandom, and I think for WNBA fandom in particular, because it's so intimate and close, it's not as walled off as it may be in like the NFL or the NBA or even Major League Baseball to an extent. It's very sort of like close in that regards, which sometimes can be for ill in some instances, but I think in this case, it's a case for good, because the fans have such a connection with a rookie who came up three arenas ago, and they've watched her grow into a steady starting type player, steady solid rotation veteran player, someone who does a lot of things well. 100%. So seeing an old fan favorite gradually grow into really becoming an adult in the US and really sort of being here in this space, I think is so cool for fans. And I feel like that part is really, I think, what makes the WNBA stand out as far as like fan relationships with players as compared to other sports. So seeing that journey and thinking back to that moment in 2023, it's like, oh man, you know, it's really cool watching someone just sort of like grow up in front of our eyes in some respects.
Yeah, 100%. I love Ronnie's comment here. Spida is back where she belongs. It is so nice to see her smile again. Also, every time, Ronnie, you put this in the chat, Spida with an A, I immediately think of Michael Imperioli, the young Michael Imperioli. Can you name that movie? Come on. Can you name that movie? If you know, you know. Put it in the chat. Put it in the chat. Okay. See, Ronnie now quizzing me. I do not know. If I had to guess, I'd probably say either Tina Charles or Swin Cash. But I actually don't know. I don't know how she got the nickname. So Ronnie, put us on. But if you can name the movie, you get bonus points. Spida. Michael Imperioli played the character. It's a it's a movie that if you're a New Yorker, you probably seen it a time or two, is all I gotta say. All right, but we'll have to wait until after halftime, because we're gonna get into our halftime conversation. And this is a conversation that not just New York Liberty fans are having, Brian, but WNBA fans, the people who cover the WNBA, want to know what's up with Tash Cloud. She's not on this New York Liberty roster. She's not on any roster as of right now, Brian. And, there's a lot of conjecture, conspiracy theories, opinions on why she's not on a roster. But, I mean, it's a little bit wild that a champion, a 2019 champion with the Washington Mystics, a true point guard, Brian, is not on any WNBA roster?
Yeah. So I think because it's funny, we were talking about it amongst ourselves on the beat earlier
Good
today.
job, Grant. Grant's
Yeah,
my kind of people.
good
That's right.
pull.
Spida, Goodfellas. And I knew it. I was like, it's either Tina Charles or Swin Cash, but there you go.
Yeah, like it's funny. We were talking about it amongst ourselves on the beat earlier today as to like why she's not signed. And I think there are so many things at play. I want to see if we can sort of like go through them bit by bit.
Yeah.
I think I would say that one of the big things is that with basketball sort of like merging and blending in together, the idea of a non-spacing guard becomes more anathema to a lot of teams, and
Ooh, anathema. Nice word.
had to break out the heavy hitter tonight.
You're getting movie references, nickname origin stories, and vocab words. I love this.
So the idea of a non-spacing point guard is really challenging and difficult. And I think
I just want you to, I'm sorry, Brian, I just want to stay there for a moment. Can you describe a little bit more what you mean by a non-spacing point guard?
Sure. I would say that I would consider a non-spacing point guard a guard that you can sort of really play off of and sort of like dare to shoot jump shots. And especially like if you're doing a pick and roll defense, just consistently going under and leaving them room to shoot because you want them to take that shot because it's a win for your defense as compared to somebody else getting the ball.
Right.
And Cloud's 3-point percentages haven't always been the greatest. The attempts have always been there, which is respectable and commendable, but the percentages haven't hit the ways that I think teams may not want. Teams that have her on the roster may not want. So that makes it a little bit challenging in that regard. And I guess that is I would say a downside to the modernization of WNBA basketball, where there's greater emphasis on good spacing and quality spacing as compared to just sort of like what's a good player, and then you sort of like figure it out from there. So I think that's a part where everyone's sort of like having to learn, not, I guess for a lot of, I would say the league itself, because I think the people who cover the league and people like who talk the league know what spacing is and that kind of stuff because we watch a lot of basketball. But I think as a collective, the league is sort of like learning what is good offense and what is good offense, what is evolved offense in a new context. And I think for a player like Cloud, who's been in the league 10 years, the ground is sort of shifting underneath her feet in some respects, so that makes it a little bit challenging. But I think if someone wants to push it back on that, and I would understand if they did, having a guard who can really get downhill matters a ton. That part is super valuable, and you can live with wonky spacing if everything else really hits, and then that comes to the roster construction piece. And I think that's where here is a good example. And I think as you're putting a good basketball team together, you have to sort of really be able to, how can you take a good player and fit them in? I think having a good player and having a negative sort of like over index and discount everything else they do, that's where I'm like, we can pause there and like we can sort of like think what is the best use of a good basketball player. So I feel like she's caught in a bit of a vortex in that regard. Yeah, another thing that happened, and this happened, and this is where having the off-season sprint is really damaging for her. You change agents midstream, and it's hard. I've never had an agent. And I feel like the way that my professional life is, I don't think I'd ever need an agent unless I hit a lick somewhere. I don't never know. But
I believe in you, Brian. Let's go.
Yeah, so she changed agents during free agency, and that's really difficult. And with a good agent as a professional athlete, you have connections, you have a sort of feel for what's happening and what's going on, and you know what teams are looking for. You're in direct contact with places. So when you change agents midstream, you're essentially starting from zero, And with the new agent, they have to get familiar to you. And now that the game of musical chairs is about to stop and roster spots are filled, and I think most specifically, starting point guard spots are full. That's where the rapid off season is really going to be damaging, because if you change agents in December, for example, right, in a normal free agency period, and then you go into late January, early February, all right, who cares? Like, you have a new agent, it's been 6 weeks, you're able to really sort of like get the lay of the land and be able to get to where you need to be. So it would be fine. But you change agents on a Wednesday, free agency officially starts on a Friday. What do? There's no avenue for you to sort of like get the success you want. And then as teams are filling out spots with the increased money, that money is being allocated out to these other positions. And if you're aiming for a particular number, and if you, as rightfully, I would say, if you're trying to get a big financial win, because look, the money is here now, and all of us have been playing for pennies might be insulting, but I feel like you know what I mean. Like, you know, you're playing for essentially a discount for this whole time.
The whole time. Another reference.
Yeah, and you've been in the league. This would be, I think, year 10, if I'm not mistaken. Like 9.
Yeah, I think is she going into?
Yeah, I think going into payment. Yeah, either way. Yeah. She's been in the league across multiple presidential administrations. So so she's been around for a minute. So, and now that the financial accessibility is really here, you want to really be able to get that, because you're a good player. You've been in the league. You have seniority in the league. You've been in the league across multiple evolutions and various things like that. So it becomes a situation now. It's, you're too good to take a veteran discount, a veteran minimum, because it's like, I'm not in my last year of my career. I have plenty more to give. I'm not a minimum salary kind of player. But as time continues to sort of like speed up, and then as we get closer and closer to the regular season, it's, if that's the thing that's there, where can I get it? And that's the challenging part. And the third one, and I think is the one that's really gotten the most heat on Twitter, the Everything app, and everywhere in between amongst writers and everyone else, is political advocacy. Like, I was talking to someone earlier, and I was making a point that I didn't necessarily think that would be a problem here, because this is a league that famously tells you, hey, we ran a U.S. senator out of her job and flipped the Senate.
I will just interrupt to correct. It wasn't the league.
Atlanta
Dream players.
Yeah, the players. Yeah, because
the players are not synonymous. We learned that in the offseason.
Yeah, gotta be very careful with that. And also, our pals at Deloitte may have different political views than the most of us, which we'll probably have to get to at a later date, but not right now. But to get back to the player piece of it, I had initially thought, because I was telling someone, I was like, this is a league where the players ran off a U.S. senator, and no one really faced consequences for it, if that makes sense. Like, no one got punished for doing that. And that's where I'm like, yeah. But then as they were talking to me, they were making a good point that the difference, I guess, in political advocacy related to the United States here, as compared to the discussion of what's happening in Gaza and everywhere in between, as far as like global politics, politics may be politics, but different kind of politics, and different meanings behind the politics really sort of like shine when you really put it under the microscope. So I think a lot of people are of the belief that Cloud's advocacy and posting and things like that, as it relates to what's happening in Gaza, is really where teams may have a pause, if that makes sense.
Yeah, and I want to step in here, because you mentioned a lot of things, and also shout out to Craig, who also joins us for Tempestagi Talk, which is our podcast covering the Seattle Storm. But Craig here is referring to our Slack channel. And this is a plug. If you're not a part of our Slack channel already, if you subscribe to the Women's Basketball Roundup, you will get access to Slack. It used to be free. Without any, you don't have to sign up for anything now. We are moving it. We're growing our community. So you want to get access to the Slack channel where you get my opinions on this topic before we talk on the podcast. Make sure you subscribe to the Women's Basketball Roundup. And we have a new and exciting thing that's coming for the Women's Basketball Roundup. And I have so many thoughts on this, especially being a poli-sci major in undergrad and having a master's degree in public administration whilst now covering the WNBA. Oh, I have thoughts. And I talked to Tash Cloud about coming to New York City specifically, knowing that she is very outspoken on political matters and things of that nature. Go check out Black Rosie Media on our social media platforms, but especially TikTok. And I'll make sure to repopulate that video because I asked her about that, Brian, in one of her first practices last year. So there is a lot here. You talked about it. I think the vortex is the terminology that you used. And I think you really hit the nail on the head. She is a vet. She is a veteran with a championship and a true point guard. That is experience that is at minimum capacity in the WNBA. Check out Christina Williams and LaTrina Robinson's conversation. If y'all listen to literally any of my women's basketball podcasts or anytime I talk about women's basketball, for years, I've been saying there's a shortage of true point guards. And as we go positionless, case in point, the New York Liberty, it seems like have decided they don't need a true point guard. Whether that's true or not, we're going to learn. We going to learn this season. But so that is quote unquote working against her. You mentioned someone who can't space as much because she's not known as a shooter, although she did put people on notice, specifically in Washington. She can shoot. And, I wonder, again, in a more laissez-faire system, there have been some critiques I've seen on social media where maybe Tash was shooting too much and maybe not passing enough to the true shooter on the team. And so there's a back and forth there, right? But if Tash was asked to do certain things, would she be able to do them? I don't know that was a consideration for sure in the New York Liberty case, for example, but I will be in New York soon and I will be doing my due diligence because I, again, have a lot of thoughts on this. But I'm going to keep it cute, keep it pretty succinct here. And we're going to have a paid subscription for the Women's Basketball Roundup. And we will have native podcasts or like mini podcasts that we're doing on the Women's Basketball Roundup. And I promise you, one of them within the next 30 days will be me giving you every thought that I have on this topic because I have a lot. But to keep it succinct, I think you're absolutely right. How she plays her position is a part of what makes it difficult to fit her into an increasingly, air quote, positionless basketball league. That's just where basketball is going, period. So that's one thing. She is a true point guard in a positionless era of basketball. The second thing is she is a true vet where money is being tossed around. There are some contracts that are good. I think everyone knows A'ja Wilson, at the time her contract was announced, being the highest paid player in the history of the WNBA made a lot of sense. What we also know is she no longer has the most lucrative contract ever in WNBA history. But listen, we're not going to get into that because we got to save it for the mini pod. I have thoughts on that. So Tash is also a victim, or players like Tash, of a absolutely wild west of money in the WNBA. And it's not only that there's more money and a higher salary cap, but Brian, also, as you talked about, it was a sprint a 100-yard dash of an off season, of a training period. And so you have people that needed to get paid that did. You have other people that got paid and I have questions. And then you have a player like Tash Cloud that if you don't have a need for a true point guard like that, she's not getting overpaid. Probably she's not getting overpaid anywhere.
Yeah.
And she is an important and elite level high IQ vet, but she's not superstar out of the galaxy. She's not the upper echelon right now. And maybe with all due respect, she might not ever be. And that's not a problem, except for when you have a short runway. There's a lot of money being thrown around. And I've said this before on this show, on Tempestagi Talk, on CBS Sports. And again, make sure you subscribe because I'll get into why what GMs are doing now, is it tenable? Is it sustainable? Is it scalable? Now I'm getting into my Kathy Engelbert bag. I'm going to use all her words, right? Because some of this money that's been thrown around doesn't make a lot of sense to me. And so you have all of those things converging in an off season. And unfortunately, this is my theory. This is my thesis on why not only is Tash Cloud not with the New York Liberty, but why she's not with any other team. And again, it's conflated by what you said, Brian. She changed agents. I think changing agents is both a symptom and the root cause, perhaps, at the same time, depending on some of the conversations. But then you go back again to her outspokenness, what is important for her, what she said to me, what she said in other interviews. There have been reports or conversations, perhaps, that a team did offer her a spot, but maybe the money wasn't right, and definitely not the location. Because if you go to a certain place and you are Tash Cloud, before you even step foot in the middle of the country, this, we're not a flyover area, you are already a target. But again, check me out on the Women's Basketball Report and our mini podcasts, because I want to break this down for y'all, and we're not going to do it all today. There is a lot here, and we're talking about Tash Cloud because this has got to get up a podcast for New York Liberty fans, and she most recently had a contract with the New York Liberty. With the vision that is here, I think the writing was a little kind of on the wall, and we talked about this. There were a lot of things in the Jonathan Kolb exit interview last year that I raised my eyebrows, and one of them was talking again about what you're going to do with Sabrina Ionescu. Is she on the ball? Is she off the ball? Is she on the ball and off the ball? Is she totally off? Is she totally on? Does it not matter because it's a positionless system? We didn't have an answer last year. We didn't have an answer when we drafted her. Check my record. I've been talking about this for years. To the point where when she was drafted, I was like, don't mess around and draft this child if you don't know what you're doing with the backcourt. And I'm going to keep it a buck. We got that championship. The New York Liberty got that championship in 2024 without answering that question, Brian. Mm-hmm. And now they don't have an answer, but do they have the right coach for what they're trying to do, which is allegedly not answer if you want her on the ball, off the ball, or on and off the ball. I don't know, but we're going to find out. So we're going to wrap here. We're definitely going to talk about this. But again, make sure you subscribe to the Women's Basketball Roundup because there is a lot more to get into when it comes to this. But we're going to keep it moving. We're going to keep it cute because it's cute, like Sab might say. And we're actually going to take a step away from the New York Liberty. We're going to talk about all 15 teams real quick. So Brian and I did this last year. We're going to do it again this year, which is we're going to rank the teams. And these are the category. The category is which teams are a wait till next year team, which means y'all not making the playoffs. Like you're not making the playoffs. Which teams are playoff bound? Like they might make the playoffs, or they definitely will make the playoffs, but maybe they're not like, a top 4 or 5 team, but they're within the top 8. and which teams are championship contenders as of right now. Brian, we're going to save the New York Liberty for last. We'll also close out today's show, just so y'all know. And I see your comments. I do see your comments. We're going to get back to your comments. But the fourth quarter is when we're going to go for questions and comments. So right now, Brian and I are going to cook. We're going to do our big one and talk about these teams. You know what? Let's start with the new kids on the block. With Toronto and Portland, we both have them as wait till next year teams. Tell me, dígame, Brian, why do you think these are teams that are just going to have to wait before they make their first playoff appearance? Because, I mean, we saw what Golden State did last year.
Yeah. Last year, I was like, they ain't making the playoffs. So then what did they do? Make the playoffs.
I told you. I was an early adopter. I told you. I was like, don't sleep on Golden State. I told you, check my record. Anyway, continue.
Yeah. So I'm like, my thinking for new teams like that is it takes some time to get used to everything. And for Portland in particular, they have a rookie head coach in Alex Sarama. So getting used to the WNBA and getting used to a whole brand new team and league all at the same time is going to be pretty challenging. So I think it'll take a little bit of time for the Fire to get things lined up. For the Tempo, they have Sandy, and Sandy's been through everything in this league, so she knows the ins and outs. But I still think for a roster like that, there's that missing thing. Like, they've got good players on there. Marina in a bigger role should be really solid. Niara in a big role should be new and exciting and intriguing. But I think they'll fall a little bit short this year. The games will be fun, of course, but I think as far as seeing them make the postseason, maybe next year for them, I'd say.
I would say so as well. I think also, I've talked about this before. A lot of y'all know I cover hockey. Not as much actually on the MNHL side these days, but I covered a hockey expansion team. But it was a hockey expansion team that within the modern era was the closest to the expansion team just prior to them. There were only a few years. And what went for Golden State, or excuse me, now here I go. For Vegas, the Golden, I was like, they got Golden in there somewhere. What worked for Vegas didn't work for Seattle because the draft rules changed. And what works for Golden State Valkyries will not work for Portland and Toronto. First, you've got two teams. You've got that 100-yard dash of an offseason and signing window. And yes, once again, the rules jostled a little. I don't think as extreme. And, there was also a lot of money. Well, I guess there was a lot of money thrown into the mix also in the WNBA. But anyway, I just think that people learn the game. And I've been talking to Jonathan about this for at least a year and a half, almost 2 years. We knew there was expansion coming. Golden State, 2 expansion teams this year, and several more by the time we get to the 2030 season. So GMs have to think about this. That's why, again, check out Women's Basketball Roundup, one of my mini podcasts. I'm going to break down why we're going to find out the front offices that know ball and those that don't. Pause for effect if you're listening on audio only. We're going to find out. But, I think the situation is not it's not just a GM issue. It's, again, all of the circumstances. And I think it's going to be interesting to see, though, in a few years, how these teams that are definitely on the trend of a more international roster. I'm very curious to see. We also asked Brian, and I pretty much agree with you here, but who are the impact players you think? First for Portland.
I think for Portland, did I put Carla Light? I feel like I did.
You did.
Okay, yeah. I'm like, I'm going to remember this. I'm like, yeah. I'm like, young guard getting a chance to do stuff like flourish, and with a coach who really is about modern basketball and any sort of training and things like that come into play. So it'll be interesting to see how she adapts to this new role and being tasked with leading an entire offense. So that's interesting for me. For Toronto, I went with Niara Sabally. We're New York bias here, so
Sabally.
Yeah. So if I see a New York person, I'm like, yeah, I'm with I'm with you. I'm going with A. So I want to see how Niara does this year in Toronto with with familiar coaching, that should help. Marina is a different kind of guard, but a guard who does draw a lot of attention and can really create opportunities in that regard. So I think it'll be a fun challenge just to see how she does in this new role. I definitely want to see how the Temple build their starting lineups, and as I do more reading and seeing what they're up to, we'll really get a sense for how Sandy does with this new roster as she sort of builds out the vision she wants to see in Toronto.
Agreed. Also, LOL at them calling the Mabry sisters temper and tantrum.
It's that New Jersey.
I love it. I love it. Okay. We're working from the bottom up on our particular little spreadsheet here. Minnesota and Phoenix. Now, we agreed on Phoenix. We both think they're playoff bound. And tell us, let's start actually with your impact player for Phoenix first.
For Phoenix, did I pick? No, me.
Natasha Mack.
Oh, okay. I went back. Okay, yeah. So big front court player. Yep. And one thing, especially with Nate is very much I got my rotation. I'm going to stick to it. Someone asked Nate a while back, I think it might have been like last week. They were like, do you wish you played your bench more? And he's basically like, no,
I'm good.
I'm good. Like, I got that fine. I'm fine. So, and I think
so, you know.
Yeah. So I think for Phoenix, max minutes are going to be critical, especially now that their front court has taken a hit with Satu leaving them, moving on from Kalani Brown. So there'll be more.
Yeah, that was interesting. So yeah, I think it's going to be interesting. I think Natasha Mack is good. I'm though going to say Ka, because without Satu, I think Copper is going to have a pretty standout season. Now, I did give Minnesota the benefit of the doubt and still have them as championship contenders. That being said, I didn't feel great about it. You have them as playoff bound and have Dorka Juhas as your impact player. Let's talk about Minnesota.
Initially, I was going to go with Kayla McBride, and because I think for K-Mac, the fascinating thing I want to see for her in the WNBA context, this is the first time in a decade where she'll be the lead option on offense. The last time she was the number one was 2016 with not the Las Vegas Aces, but the San Antonio Silver Stars. And then the next year, Kelsey Plum came in, and then the next year, and then the party began, led by our old pal, Bad
Boy Bill, bad boy, ill-fitting suit Lambeer.
Yeah. So for the Lynx, I went with Dorka, and Dorka wasn't with the team last year. Yeah. Their front court really got pummeled in the expansion draft and free agency.
Yeah, and that's why I feel like I did give them the benefit of the doubt, and I usually do. I'm like, a team that made the playoffs last year, I think has every right to. We did get also an update on Nafisa Collier, expected back by early June. So, I probably should have factored that in a little bit more. But I'm probably, I guess what I'm saying is I agree with you and Damien. These are playoff bound teams, maybe not quite championship contenders. Moving on. Okay. We both agreed that the Atlanta Dream will be championship contenders and that it's all about waiting till next year for Washington not to make it all about the Mystics. That was for you, Misha MJ Jones. We miss you. Okay. You have Naz Hillman as your impact player for Atlanta and Sonia Citron as your impact player for Washington. Let's start. I'll start off with Washington. I do think it's still a wait till next year. I think this is a team that is content to be young, but as I've said, to be young. Another movie reference. There you go. I'm on a roll here. But I'm okay with it. A lot of people saying they're tanking for Juju. I'm not saying that they're not. And what I'm saying is, even if they are, let your core work through it. And I think they're being smart. They've gotten a lot of picks. They fleeced some folks as far as I'm concerned. And again, knowing that expansion is on the horizon every year through 2030, you want to see what's going to hit. And I like the pick for Citron here, but I want you to talk a little bit about it. Atlanta championship contenders. Now, it was a disappointing exit for the Dream last year. It was a team, I thought they were the Dream team. I thought they were going to put some things on. It didn't work out that way. That being said, I think like it's not just Angel Reese. They got some, and I've said this for years. I find Brittany Griner such an interesting player. And you know what? I didn't ever realize that she really only cares about one stat, and that's her blocks. But now it makes so much sense because I never understood how you have a Brittany Griner and you just don't win every team. It's like I don't understand how Kia Stokes can't get rebounds on the offensive side with the shoulders and the height that she has. It's just some things will never make sense to me. Like when I go to Chicago and I'm like, what do you mean that's a lake? What do you mean that's a lake? Where I come from, lakes don't look like. What do you mean that's a lake? That's how I feel sometimes about Brittany Griner and Kia Stokes. And so I think that moving on from Griner, adding someone like Angel Reese, unfortunately, Bree Jones went down with an injury. So we did this before we knew about the Bree Jones injury. And I still think there are a lot of solid pieces here that they're going to be able to work with Brian.
Yeah. I feel like I've said here, I naturally have a strong distrust of any Atlanta-based sports outfit. If you root for an Atlanta-based team, they will disappoint you and embarrass you in the playoffs. Like,
maybe that's a bad example.
No. Oh yeah, they lost all the time. Like
not when they played the Mets. Not when they played the Mets in the 90s. Not when they played the Mets in the 90s.
Yeah, they play somebody else, they're gonna lose. Like and for the Dream last year, I remember throughout the year we mentioned, hey, they're a bad fourth quarter team. The worst net rating in the worst fourth quarter rating in the WNBA. And then what happened in that game 3? And they're building against a not completely gutted Indiana Fever team, but a gutted Fever team nonetheless. That league melted, and they melted down in the fourth quarter, and then it was all over when they should have won that game. And they had no business losing.
That was
a
so many levels.
Loss.
On so many levels.
But luckily for them, they were able to essentially add Angel Reese for low first round draft picks because they're going to be good for the next couple of years.
Please.
So they've got that. And then another year of Alicia Gray really being really empowered and supercharged with Carl Smesko and what he does. A year where you have more of Ryan Howard. You hope that she's fully healthy all the way through. And you have an all-time great offensive rebounder and just her third WNBA season in Angel Reese. Like, she's a magnet when it comes to getting the ball. So having that makes it really helpful. And for Nas, she's going to take on a bigger role. She was going to take a big role anyway with Griner starting. And now with Bree Jones out for a to-be-determined amount of time, that's going to be more opportunity for her. So I really want to see how she does, because she was fantastic last year. She was excellent for them.
So underrated. Like, her whole career. Okay? Her whole career has been criminally underrated. I am squarely in the Bree Jones fan club, so let's see what Hotlanta's got cooking. But speaking of, it's the Fever and the Sky up next, and we agree here. Now, listen, I've said this on a few podcasts. I don't like saying nice things about the Sky organization, because as much as we talked about Tash Cloud might be a quote-unquote victim of circumstance with all of the newness under the new CBA, I think the Chicago Sky are an example of failing up. They're an example about failing up. Damien, we're working our way through. It's 15 teams now. You got to wait. You got to be patient. Don't worry. We're only doing 2 at a time. I think they failed up. And so I didn't want to do it, but I do think there's playoff potential for this team. Now, I think it's also, this has been a team definitely under Teaspoon. Tyler took a dip. Still has his job, though. But Tyler took a dip. At least under Spoon, Angel Reese and them were fighting for that spot. They did not make the playoffs. It's been a while, but I think they could. There, of course, in we're not going to talk about Courtney Vandersloot, not today, but we both have them as playoff bound. You have Rakia Jackson as the impact player. You know what? I'm gonna state the obvious, because one of the only reasons that I have faith in this team is because the sky got sky. And I'm still trying to understand how, but money talks is what they say.
And don't bring your foolishness to her door.
I believe in Skylar Diggins. Listen. Everything else, everything else can be burning. But I tell you what, that team gonna work, because if not, you're gonna have to deal with Sky in the locker room, and with who was Beck Allen next to Helen or Susan Wendy? I don't know. Whatever that woman. Sorry to that woman. Whatever that woman's name is, she gonna get all the tea, because if you don't play, Sky gonna let you know. So she's my impact player. Let's quickly talk about the Indiana Fever. We both have them as championship contenders. Now, this is what's interesting, because a lot of the people that got them to a championship are not on this team. And I'm gonna keep it a buck. Some of those players that they signed to, 7-day contracts, emergency contracts, are the exact same players that, they literally needed the physical bodies. So that's a part of it. And they made the most of their opportunities. Ari McDonald, Odyssey Sims, thinking about that. And there's a really interesting debate that has been making its rounds on social media, and the difference when Indiana plays with Caitlin Clark and without Caitlin Clark. And there is a difference. And it comes down to the type of leader, quite honestly, that Clark is, and how Aaliyah Boston scores with and without Caitlin Clark. We're not going to get into that too much, but we both have them as contenders, because, man, listen, if they can figure that out, if Stephanie White can really get a solid squad that figures out why they play differently when Clark is on the court and when she's not, and looking at some of the pieces that they have, this absolutely should be a playoff team and should be a contender. We're going to keep it moving, though, Brian, because I want you to get into the Vegas Aces and the Seattle Storm. We both agree. One is a wait till next year, aka not the Aces, and and one is a championship contender. The Aces are coming in as the defending champs. You have Jackie Young as your impact player.
Yeah, I always try to be like, let me sort of like pick a deep cut. Everyone likes the main singles here. How about a little bit of a deep dive? But I'm like, I feel like Jackie, although Jackie is an amazing player, a top 10 player, she fits because the other impact player is the person you built. Well, you built 3 statues of at least. So I wanted to like flip a little bit.
Yeah,
so
and I think impact doesn't have to be your best player. It's the player that has the most impact, and it can be your MVP or it doesn't have to be. So I think Jackie makes a lot of sense, and Jackie was the first call, right? That was one of the first players that re-upped.
Yep, and Jackie is someone that the first $1 million player, in fact.
That's right. That's right. There you go.
History will tell you that the great Jackie Young, the first to hit $1 million in this league, and Jackie in particular, I think is going to be so vital to what they do, because Jackie does so many things very well, and she can create, she can initiate, she can create, she can do those things at a good level. And another year of this core 3 together. And with all the years and with all the mileage coming together, it's really taxing, and it's going to take a lot of like nursing to get through the season. And Jackie is someone who plays 40 games every year out, heavy minutes every time out, is an iron woman in that regard. And especially as the league continues to get better and as teams try to really sort of like really be more positionless, you have a player in Jackie Young who can scale up and guard 1 to 4 credibly and do it at a very high level all the way through. And having a player like that next to Asia Wilson takes so much off her plate, because last year a lot of it was, hey Asia, please, can you please
save us?
Yeah,
save us. Like, not just last season, definitely last season, but it's been a trend for a little bit here.
A good while.
Yeah, I like the Jackie Young pick. Yeah, I don't know that she'll be an impact player. I think it's more of an intriguing player, and of course that's Kennedy Carter. Training camp contract. What's going to happen there? Who even knows?
Yeah.
It's going to be fireworks. And listen, there might be some things regarding the personal lives of the aces that are also intriguing for those who like the chisme, as we say. So I don't know. Like I'm not confirming or denying anything. But I see what y'all be saying. So anyway, moving on.
Y'all be talking wild on the internet, boy. I tell you what.
Listen, the Seattle Storm, wait till next year. I do think they're a wait till next year team. I think they finally accepted that they're a wait till next year team. You have Natisha Heidemann as your impact player. I Winsome coming in with the hot tea, piping hot. Not enough smoke in that emoji for me, but well, you know, I'm gonna do this and then we're gonna move on because we're gonna bust through these so we can get to some. I've starred some comments, and if y'all have any other questions or comments before we close out, start putting them in the chat now because we'll wrap with questions and comments in the fourth quarter. You know what? I'm gonna go a little bit out on a limb here. I don't know. I need to look at the cap situation, but in my mind, because I still do believe that every team needs a true 1 and a true 5. I really do believe that. I think an impact player potentially could be if the Seattle Storm figure out a way to go get Tash Cloud. You know, like, because Natisha Heidemann, I don't know. I don't know that there are enough reps yet to really sustain a full season as the go-to lead guard.
Yeah.
That's a little tough. And I think Seattle, again, has resigned to the fact that they are in a rebuild or a retool, however you want to say it. So maybe that's not what they're looking for. And I think Heidemann could be that. But when coming to Seattle, there's not anyone to learn under unless. So I don't know. That's my fantasy pick there. All right, moving on. All right, Damien, now's your chance. We're talking about Connecticut, as I lovingly say, and the LA Sparks. Connecticut Sun, wait till next year. Wait till Houston.
Wait till Houston.
Wait till Houston. How could Ogumake and Diggins leave Seattle? Well, I've talked about winners and losers in free agency. Seattle might have won the draft, especially for excitement. They lost free agency because of what Damien is saying right now. But when you recruit them because of the head coach and then you fire the head coach.
Why am I still working here?
There you go. But, you know, Connecticut's a wait till next year. You have Kennedy Burke. Yes. As a breakout player. I like that because it's someone who, similarly to what we saw with Kayla Thornton, give them a team that's on the up and up, give them more minutes. Likely KB will likely get more run this year, so I like it. I think it's also really interesting that Brittany Griner is going to the franchise that, you know, lays claim to Margot Diedick, and trying to get that blocks record is very interesting. So keeping an eye on that. But they're wait till next year. The LA Sparks, they might mess around and be playoff bound. You have Ariel Atkins as their impact player. I really think this is a year, or maybe should be the year, where we get to really see what Cam Brink is about. So that's my pick there. But we both have the LA Sparks and the aforementioned Nneka Ogumake, who made sure everybody got paid in the offseason. But I also have thoughts about that. Beck Allen, again, check out Women's Basketball Roundup. We'll put it in the show notes here. I'll also drop it here for those who are live. Subscribe to the Women's Basketball Roundup. And once we do our subscriptions, they are going to be live next week. Go ahead and subscribe, because I have some theories also on the CBA. The last CBA was likely bad for the bottom, or the lower, the players that are really have to work perhaps, or justify to some, especially with only 12 teams remaining in the league. I think this CBA has maybe a different effect perhaps a negative, perhaps unintended consequence. And we'll talk about that again on our mini podcast, but you're going to want to subscribe to the Women's Basketball Roundup for that. Okay, moving on. We're going to do Golden State, Dallas, and then end with the New York Liberty. Golden State, playoff bound. And I agree with you here. Impact player, Veronica Burton. Veronica Burton made freaking light work of Courtney Williams in Unrivaled. Sis ain't here for your games. She is like, listen, all right, send me to Golden State. See what happened. Send me to Golden State. We'll see what happened. I like them and what they could potentially do this year, Brian.
Yeah, I think especially for Veronica, she had the gigantic leap last year, and I thought she was an all WNBA caliber player. Now that you've had that confidence built in, and now you have a returning Kayla Thornton, you have Gabby Williams alongside you now, there's a lot more versatility and more buttons you can press. And that second year confidence is really going to kick in. So I think she's going to have a big year and perhaps even an all-star year, I'd say.
Ooh, I like it. I'm also curious to see what KT can do. Unfortunate way to end the season, literally right after All-Star. That was tough. So I am excited there. Now, we don't agree on Dallas. And I, similarly to what I was doing with Minnesota, I might be underestimating Dallas, because Dallas is another team. I hate to say it, but they might have messed around and cooked and failed up when it came to all this influx of money. Also, there is Kurt Miller. I don't like the Dallas organization historically and the decisions that they've made, and I have liked what Kurt Miller has been able to do in the WNBA. Now, he doesn't have to worry about coaching responsibilities. It's all about the GM role. And AZ, Paige, they looking kind of they got land. They got land. That's my impact player for Dallas.
Yeah. And I wrote in a newsletter last week, the Dallas Wings as a franchise haven't had a top 5 defense since they were the Detroit Shock back in like the late 2000s. And they've historically been a poor defensive team. Like the highest they've been since they've been in Dallas proper is 8th. And that was the highest they got when they were in Tulsa as the Tulsa Shock. So let's
go T-Town.
Yeah, as an organization, they've just been bad defensively going on decades now, and having the co-defensive player of the year last year to protect the rim, who can really guard a lot of positions and do it well, that should help immensely for this group and really provide that backstop for their guards in case they beat on the perimeter, all those kind of things. Having someone like Lan who can clean up behind you is so meaningful and valuable, and having a good boost with a player like a Jess Shepard as well too. I think, and if we assume that Paige takes year 2 leap, because she was excellent in year 1, if she takes another step forward in year 2, that can create even more excitement and unlock even more. And having the new head coach, and theoretically, Jose Fernandez is going to have a better roster suited for him, and there'll be more opportunity for him to like fully settle in. Because I think one of the subtle disasters of last year for Chris Koklanis is that there was a lot of roster turmoil, a lot of like beef on the roster, a lot of like disagreements and things like that. And then there was the sort of like, the assistant should be the one in charge. And then when there's that, when it's like even unintentionally that competing vision coming together at once, it makes it disharmonious and it makes it really hard for everyone to sort of come together. It feels like from everything I've been reading so far, Dallas is more aligned with what Jose Fernandez is doing. And there isn't that sort of, who's the person I should really answer to kind of situation. I think that should help make things a little bit better.
That was so messy. Listen, Damien, I did say wait till next year for Dallas, but again, I'm like, maybe I made a mistake because I kind of do like Dallas. I like their roster, don't like what the organization has done, so this was a little tough for me. And so Brian does have them playoff bound. I have them wait till next year, so we'll see who's right. Yeah, but they're going to be interesting. And then of course we have LIBERTY, New York Liberty. All right. Are they waiting till next year? No.
If they are, buddy, we've got problems.
We've got so many problems. And I will find a pizza table to flip because ain't no way. But that's what I said last year. If you would have told me last year that roster that then went and got Emma Messaman would not make it through the first round, I would have told me you are a lie. You are a lie. So I don't even know. But I'm going to tell you what I think. They are not a wait till next year team. They are playoff bound, but oh wait. They're not just playoff bound. This should be a contender. The only thing, and y'all will probably not be surprised if you listen to the podcast up until this point, I still don't fully believe in positionless, at least not at the point guard position. I don't know that I believe in it completely. And I do believe in jingle jangle. I believe in my jingle jangle. And I'm gonna tell you what, I took it off the screen. I meant to mention this earlier, but sis had like the cut tee, like actually cut the tee. I don't know, like Sam put some muscle on.
At a jack.
Right? Is it just me? Like she looked a little, you know what I'm saying? She looked a little, I gotta get to the hoop. Sam not playing around. And last year she said I had the best offseason of my career. And then she said it again this year. Let's go.
Yeah.
Championship contender. Let's go.
Yep. That's the expectation. I think the personnel is here to do it. The boost with Satu Sabli is going to really make it possible. Having a situation where
let's go.
You can sit Brianna Stewart and slide an all WNBA caliber player into the 4th spot and then play with the lineups accordingly. I think it's going to be successful. I think this group has a lot to prove because I think to a person, if we really sort of got them off camera, they'd all admit that last year was a failure for them, and failure is not an option for this group. Yeah. And you have a core that did compete at the highest level for a championship. Having that all back now is going to be meaningful. And you have those new boosts, those new influx of talent, returning players who are coming back in to add to what New York does. A little bit more versatility on the perimeter, a little bit more length, which should help on the boards. All the problems they had last year, as far as like being unable to rebound, not getting to the rim enough, not generating clean enough looks, not being consistent enough when running the offense. Yep. All those things in theory should be corrected.
In theory
should be corrected. It should be corrected. And with the sort of like institutional knowledge of the core players who have been here in the past, that should carry over. And the new players who are coming back into the system and coming back into the organization after being away for a little bit of time, they should be able to adjust and get acclimated quickly. So I think it should be a huge season for them. And my player to watch, we've been on it for 2 years.
Well, we disagree on this. So your player to watch and my player to watch, or impact player, are different, but they're both from Deutschland.
Oh, okay.
So let's go. You have
Leo Fibich.
That's it. And I agree with Ronnie. I love me some Leo.
There it is.
Leo coming through a little bit late. Leo was my impact player last year. I was like, the only reason I don't think the New York Liberty will be number 1 is because Leo is likely coming late. It turned out that she didn't come, I think, to camp late, but she started the season and then she gets hurt in that Indiana game. So It was still, they didn't get the number 1 because Leo Fibich was not healthy. And so I believe in Leo 100%. And Satu's my OG German. I'm gonna hold it down. Maybe I want to be German. I don't know. But Satu is here. I think a sneaky pick, and it's not really sneaky, but I get the sense that Benijah Hamilton wants to remind y'all who Benijah Hamilton is.
Mm-hmm.
So yeah, that's scary. You get the unicorn back, and you get Benijah ready to be like, oh yeah, the shot is back. The jump shot is back, and the other shot, I left that in the past. I'm just telling y'all. Tammy's saying a fully healthy Stewie is going to be key. I mean, y'all already know how I feel about Stewie. Stewie been holding this team down on one knee, on one leg, and no 3-point shot. So I mean, you could really go down the list because we talked about rebounding. Like JJ, I'm so curious. I don't know if I'm ready to call it as an impact player yet. I said what I said. JJ is so intriguing to me in this system. If MVP JJ gets unlocked under the DeMARCO era, forget about it.
Yeah.
Forget about. Hold on, wait. Do I have it? But hold on. Just get you another one of these. Get you another one of these. Like I got to put it up. I got to figure, like, do I want it over here? I got to figure out where I want it, because it used to be in the other spot. It was right behind me. We got to figure it out. Okay. This is what we're going for, people. So there's a lot of people that are going to be unlocked, and it's wild to say, because after last year, I feel like we're like, okay, super team on paper does not super team in real life, results. So, but I do think that they have to be a contender. But you know what I've also been saying, Brian, when you have a rookie head coach and this is a proper championship window team, if it doesn't work out, and I'm really talking, we need to see semifinals, and that might even still be a failure of a season. If it doesn't work out, we got to start asking some big questions, because I really don't understand, not completely. I'll say it this way. I don't like that you have a championship contending team in a league where veteran experience and knowledge of the league is so important, and we messing around and getting a rookie coach, as I like to say, aka a first-time coach with a team that's still within, or in theory should be within, its championship window. Now, I'm not saying that's what's going to happen, but if it is what does happen, you better be ready for an epic rant, because I will be going off.
Yeah.
I will be going off. Because what do you mean? What do you mean? We wasted effectively now 2 seasons in a row whilst in a championship window. Make it make sense. Make it make sense. But again, if you want to hear some more of my rants and ramblings, we want you to join us on the Women's Basketball Roundup. We are soon going to be dropping our subscriptions, paid subscriptions. And in those paid subscriptions, we will have mini podcasts available for subscribers. There'll be a few different ways that you can subscribe, but you can subscribe now and become a part of our women's basketball roster, free in your inbox, curated by the one and only Brian Florentin.
Yeah.
We come into your inbox, your email box, twice weekly, no off season. So that means you're getting, of course, WNBA. You'll get all of the links and updates from not only Gotta Get Up, but also Tempestagi Talk. You'll get all of the NCAA coverage, Athletes Unlimited, Unrivaled. We have FIBA World Cup in Deutschland in the fall. That's why we have a break in September. All of that and more over at the Women's Basketball Roundup. If you're not already subscribed, go ahead and do it. And again, we will have an opportunity soon for you to upgrade to a paid subscription so you can get some of our mini podcasts. All right. That's what we got. We're going to close out with some questions and comments from y'all, because we love y'all. We see Tammy in the house. Winsome is here again. Damien always coming through. Ronnie, Levin, Spider, the wizard, a bee, a unicorn. Wait, a double demon. Wait, who's double demon?
Probably the Marines, if I had to guess.
That's hilarious. A spider, a wizard, a bee, a unicorn, a double demon. Oh my, another movie reference. I love it, Ronnie. Very on theme for today's episode. I love it. I love it. Ronnie also saying, Erica, please have no fear of the rookie coach. Believe in the Pat Riley effect. Paul Westhead. Okay. All right. Listen, school me on the MNBA. I was too young. I don't remember those things. I mean, I remember that slick back, but that's about it. Hey, listen, you know, I talk about hockey, a coach that the Seattle Kraken fired. You know, he was a rookie head coach and won a Stanley Cup, not in Seattle, but in Pittsburgh. So yeah, there you go. Damien saying a healthy, disciplined Liberty team could be the key for the Liberty to be successful. I love it. Damien also saying Benajelani starts and Leonie Fiebig comes off the bench. You know, this is interesting, Brian, because I think it can be interchangeable. I think we talked about that a little bit on the last episode.
Yeah, I would get it, especially for a player who is coming off of high stakes basketball in Europe right now in Leo. If the theory is you want to nurse her into the season, so you want to make sure you keep her minutes low, although the utility of a Lady Hamilton coming off the bench as a ball handler, someone who can run offense a little bit, and someone who can really be that secondary scorer that might have greater value coming off the bench as a microwave scorer as compared to a starter. I would say, if you ask me in August, Leo's probably going to be starting with Lady Hamilton coming off the bench. But if you ask me starting May 8th, it might be Lainey Hamilton starts and then Leo gradually works her way back into just like being back in the United States off the bench. And then she moves back into the starting spot a little bit later. So it depends on when you catch me as far as like who starts in that other position.
I could dig it. I could dig it for sure. So, all right, we got to see. All right, there were some other comments that I flagged from earlier, including, let's see, which is the one I want to start with. Okay, Ronnie asking you specifically, Brian, do you think Cloud was a air quote cap casualty or positionless basketball? What is the reason Natasha Cloud does not have a WNBA contract?
I would say for the Liberty, I'm leaning more towards the latter. And I say that because when we think about the past 3 years in particular, in 23, when Sloot was point guard, it worked well until it didn't at the end against Las Vegas. 24, they made this. Circumstances dictated why the switch was made. When Sloot went on bereavement leave, Sav slid into the one, and then when Sloot came back, the fit was clunky, and then by the postseason, the switch went permanently to Leo, and then it inevitably led to Sloot's departure from New York. So in 24, we saw proof of concept with Sav operating as the lead guard, and then the success of the float in from there. Last year, they went back to, hey, Sab, you're off the ball a little bit more, and then we bring in this true point guard. It worked again until it didn't.
Yeah.
And now I think for Kolb, I would say the vision is more, hey, we're going to put Sab at the guard. We're going to really sort of maximize the space that we have on offense. We're really going to try to clear things out and then have situations where you really can't put two on the ball because there are elite players and sharpshooters all over the court. So if you try it this year, you're going to be punished in a way that we have been able to do so since 2024. So I think it's a result of, I would say, organizational philosophy as far as what the best fit is for the stars on the team. For a cap casualty, possibly, because I think it's a situation where if you're a starting caliber guard, you see rotation players who on this team who were on the bench last year on this same team getting $1 million contract. You're like, wait a minute, hold on here. And I understand because I'd say the same thing. Like, you're telling me a player who was on the bench last year and struggled down the stretch is getting $1 million contract and I can't get anything. I have my questions, and I would hold on until I got something that was respectable for a player of my pedigree and stature in this league.
Yeah.
So I think if I had to sort of like put percentages on both, I'd say probably 70% for the Liberty context. Positionless basketball was the thing, and having Sab at the one, and you really try to like maximize the space that you can create on every offensive possession. I feel like that was the driving factor for her not being on this Liberty roster. And then the cap is probably a secondary piece of it, because if you have 3 players making $1 million and then the 5% increase every year, that is, and even with the salary cap increasing, I think it's very important to remember it's still a hard cap. It's not, oh, you can go over a little bit. Oh, you can pay a little bit more for your homegrown players.
No.
It's that hard number, and that hard number is that number, and there's no moving over it, and there's no mechanism of doing so. So I think that's where, if you're a player and you're looking for role and salary to be exactly where you want it to be, that's where it gets a little bit harder. And I think especially with the hard cap, we'll have to start I think we might have to have a longer conversation about this another day, but in a lot of leagues, and my brain is thinking of the NFL specifically, if a team has their way, would I want to pay an expensive veteran or a cheaper rookie? That's the calculus a lot of people in the WNBA are going to have to make going forward. We didn't have to do that before, because when all the money was the same as, oh, hey, whatever, I can sign a vet, I don't care. Now it's, I can pay someone $800K, or I can skate off and pay $270 and be fine, or I can bring in players who have never been, who may have succeeded in other leagues around the world but are brand new to the WNBA, and I know they're good, and I can pay them at this particular number because they don't draw the market that a vet we've seen in the USA can do.
It's kind of wild. I like Tammy's thing here. The MNBAification of the W is going to have a chilling effect. And also, I think, I know that the comment also talks about activism, but I've been talking about this just period. There are the MNBAification of the WNBA on so many levels is definitely a factor here. And we heard that even with the coaching carousel that predated the CBA, right? Everyone, and again, another deep dive that I have planned is, let's look at these coaching rosters and the additional, who do we have now in the WNBA, and what does that say? What is the sign that we're seeing? What is the trend that we're seeing? So I think it's going to be interesting. Damien asked me specifically, should Kolb give Natasha Cloud a call and have her return to the New York Liberty? Listen, for all of the reasons that Brian and I have already talked about, I really do think that ship has sailed. Another thing, let's keep it a buck, quite literally. Not only is it you can pay a rookie like what Brian was just talking about, but you bring back Benijah Laney Hamilton. And so now you have 2 players that are known for their defense, 2 players that have won a championship in this league, had to fight. All my life I had to fight. These are players that nothing was given, nothing was handed to them. They've had to work it. It's endearing to the fan base. And can you pay both of them while also making sure the 3 players that you want to lock up for the future, that all signed, to my surprise, multi-year contracts? Where are you cutting the money? When you also, having both Benijah Laney Hamilton and Tash Cloud on this New York Liberty roster did not make sense unless you get rid of Beck Gardner, you get rid of Maureen Johannes, you get rid of Hanju, you don't bring Beck Allen in. That's where your money went. And you have to carry 12, Brian, plus development players. So no, he's not going to call Natasha. I don't see that happening.
Yeah.
I'll put it that way because I didn't think he was going to call MMS some money either. And then that happened. And I'm so disappointed for Emma and for us in the way that ended. Like, not enough people are talking about that, but don't worry, I'm going to talk about it because that hurts my heart as well. But anyway, let's get to a few other comments. Damien also just saying, regardless of what Tosh Cloud thinks political wise, it should not be used as a scapegoat, not to give Natasha Cloud a chance. And this is coming from, there's a growing fervor, right, that she's being blackballed a la Colin Kaepernick. It even came up on our last stream. That's interesting. And listen, poli-sci major, 2 political science degrees. Y'all can check my personal social media if y'all want to know how I roll. I'm sure you already do. I think it's interesting. And this is still not just the United States, but this is 2026, people. It's always on the dang table. It is always on the table. Nefarious things because of people who love other human beings. Like, what?
Mm-hmm.
And the New York Liberty in this specific case, also, Brian, signed Satu, who not only talks about a lot of, if not, talks about a lot of the same topics that Tosh Cloud talks about, but then she adds the international flavor to it. So she's not just talking about all of these things that are happening in this country, but how there is a global impact. Because again, it's not just the United States. This is 2026, and we're seeing things like this happen throughout the globe. So it's an interesting conversation, and I want to dive into it more. And there are true basketball reasons why, logically, from the Liberty perspective, and why and how they're looking at it from their basketball vantage point, that it makes it tough to bring Tosh Cloud back. And I think, again, it just is just kind of falling into some of what's happening here with the league, including the influx of money. Damien, I already said this earlier, is Sabrina still ready to take the keys for the New York Liberty? Now, this is interesting because the answer for me is yes, and I'm going to need the New York Liberty to really figure out what they're doing in the backcourt, because the reason, in my opinion, and not the only reason, injuries had something to do with it, but the reason, and it goes to something you said earlier, I'll find the comment in a minute, but Damien, my eyebrows raising off of what Jonathan Kolb said last season was not because I think I forget the terminology. I got to look at what you exactly said, but I don't think he was like trying to be misleading. I think if anything, it was telling what he said in how he thinks. I find Jonathan Kolb to be a pretty straightforward kind of person. He's not going to tell you everything, especially if he doesn't want to, and he will give a thoughtful answer, especially in exit interviews. And we know, because I speak to him every single year, not just at exits, but I speak to him. We have conversations about this, and I've been concerned about how Sabrina Ionescu would be utilized since she was drafted. It's not, I do think she'll get the keys, and what are the circumstances in which the New York Liberty can set up who is their franchise player? Let's not act like it's anyone else.
Yeah.
Because, and they're surrounding her with veterans. This team should win another championship. They are setting her up with veterans where she should be able to win another championship. But why isn't that happening? That's what Jonathan Kolb was effectively asked and asking last year in his exit interviews. But he and I had that conversation a couple of weeks before that, and the year before that, and the year before that. So yes, I do think she should get the keys, and perhaps that's where I understand, I don't like, but I understand the move from Sandy, because if the system didn't work and there was no movement at times, I don't blame that all on Sandy. The players need to, how long have you played basketball? I haven't played basketball since high school, and I know in basketball you have to move. You what? You have to move. So I'm not ready to blame it all on Sandy, and that's why we led the show the way we did. because where Sandy was making perhaps assumptions that, I don't know, high-level WNBA players are going to know how to play basketball, I'm being a little bit, whatever. And am I, though? Move. Yeah. I'm going to need you to move. Chris DeMarco's not taking that chance. And that's why we led the conversation with that. Two different approaches. Is the DeMarco approach going to work for Sabrina? Possibly. But what's also possible is, does it not work somewhere else? I don't know. We don't know. But yes, to answer my very long-winded way of answering your question, yes, Sabrina still gets the keys. Thank you. So who will you call, Natasha Cloud or Emma Messiman? With what money? I ain't even got a quarter to call nobody. And I don't even think it costs a quarter. Do they even have payphones anymore? Where is the money, Mang? Where is the money? With what money? Who are you cutting? I think y'all know who I would probably. And even then, that's not enough money. I actually don't know. I don't know exactly. But if I had to ballpark, even if you got rid of like I don't know, let's just say a Hanju, that's not enough money for Emma Messiman. That's not enough money for Tash Cloud. Where's the money? Who are you calling when you don't have money? Before, the problem was the Liberty had money. They had roster spots, but they weren't allowed to bring anyone in. Again, I had that conversation with Jonathan Kolb. If you're in our Slack channel, I gave you that audio because he and I talked about it, and I'll drop it in there again. So make sure you subscribe to the Women's Basketball Roundup because you get immediate access to our Slack channel where I will send you that audio of Jonathan and I talking and him saying, I had the money, I had the roster spots, but I could not do X, Y, Z. Mostly talking about Sherrod. With what money? I just don't know. With what money? With what money? And then Ronnie saying not only vets, but young players around her through free agency. Exactly. This team is building for Sabrina Ionescu to be in position to win multiple titles. And for this organization to win multiple titles. You're absolutely right, Ronnie. And it is a balancing act. I do think Tash Cloud should have a roster spot, period, point blank. I don't even know why that's a conversation. I think she could have a roster spot in a version of this New York Liberty squad. And something's got to give. The New York Liberty, presumably, whether it was because it was their vision or whether because they made an offer and it didn't align with what Tash wanted, I don't know yet, but I'm going to inquire. It just didn't work out right now. I don't know if she feels some kind of way and would never come back. I don't know if she feels some kind of way and maybe will make her way back. I don't know. We don't know right now. But it is wild that the caliber of player like Emma Messiman, Tina Charles, right, still doesn't have a contract. Mm-hmm. Tash Cloud doesn't have a contract. That these are players that are effectively on the shelf, and it makes no sense. It makes no sense except within the landscape that we find ourselves in 2026. So, I mean, listen, we got into a lot, y'all. Y'all are amazing. You come through for us every year. Oh, I did want to go back to Hazy Hayes because, Brian, we do know Stewie is one of a few players, right, that is still overseas. She did sign a contract. She was basically like, if Fenerbahce made me an offer I couldn't refuse, she just shows up, puts a uniform on, does a little, I'm being facetious. She's going to do more than just take a few photos. But, it's a limited run for, I guess, a nice paycheck. So she went ahead and did it.
Yeah. Back
say again.
She's back next week.
There you go. So that will be on the back end of the training camp and for the little scotch that we have for preseason. But as it was also said in our comments, you can watch preseason games on League Pass. Some of them are even on network TV. Thank you, Caitlin Clark. I'm going to leave that there for now. But thank you, Caitlin Clark. Or Cheryl Reeve, or the person who streamed the entire preseason game of the Minnesota Lynx. I mean, there's a lot of people to thank. Either way, you can watch those. And of course, we will have you covered here right on Gotta Get Up, a podcast for New York Liberty fans, hosted by myself, Erica L. Ayala, as well as Brian Florentin, who is also our curator of the Women's Basketball Roundup. That is our twice weekly newsletter. We cover all things women's basketball, just a few of the many things we have covered, including, that rat, man. Every single time it gets me.
My good friend.
Listen, we cover a lot at the Women's Basketball Roundup. Brian does a great job covering that. And again, we are leveling up for the 2026 season. You're not going to want to miss it. But again, I dropped some pretty good nuggets in our Slack channel. And the way now for you to get access, if you didn't get early access, is for you to subscribe to the Women's Basketball Roundup at all levels. You immediately get access to Slack, but you get a few extra accoutrements, if you will, once you upgrade. So we shall see. Exactly. Emma, it's a World Cup year. We know she's always prioritized overseas. And honestly, since the CBA, the official draft has not been dropped, I still don't know what's going on with prioritization. I have so many questions. Another thing that you'll get in one of our mini podcasts that we have for the Women's Basketball Roundup. But since y'all lock in with us, I'm telling you all of this in advance. You'll start to see in the next few days that we have a nice little campaign, but I'm gonna let y'all know now. When I played softball, I wore number 22 because my favorite player in the WNBA growing up wore number 22. And if you know ball, then you know there are some absolute icons that have worn the number 22. That's why our paid subscription for the Women's Basketball Roundup is going to be called Legacy 22. So you want to make sure that you join Legacy 22. It will drop, and it will do a soft launch for those who are a part of our Slack channel and already on our email listserv. You'll get first look, be able to pre-sign up. That will be happening this week. So you've got a newsletter that drops tomorrow, Wednesday, and then on Friday's newsletter, we'll drop all of the details about Legacy 22. And then on my birthday, it's my birthday on May 8th, which is also opening day. We will make that available to the entire public. Legacy 22 is our paid subscription. $5 if you want to pay for the starting 5. Get it. Starting 5 is $5 a month. But our Legacy 22, you pay up front and you get a 22% discount. So make sure you check it out. But for Brian Florentin, our curator of the Women's Basketball Roundup, my name is Erica L. Ayala, and you have been listening to Gotta Get Up, a podcast for New York Liberty fans. There we go. Swoops fans in the house. May babies in the house. That's right. It's tourist season. Gang, gang. Let's go. But we about to get out of here, which means we have to wave. And we will catch y'all next week. Next week also we'll drop the next 3 episodes that we have so you can lock in the dates. You're not going to want to miss it. But for Brian Florentin, Erica L. Ayala, and we are about to get up out of here. Peace out, everybody. We'll catch you next week for another episode of Gotta Get